Hey adventurers, today is going to be a book recommendation video for younger readers. Most of these are books that we read when we were younger or we have read more recently but are written for a younger audience, and we thought that they would fit well in here.
So the first one is actually a book series written by Ron Roy, and it's the A to Z mysteries. I don't own the first book, but these follow three friends that solve mysteries around the little town that they live in, and they're so much fun. They really are, and they're some of the more engaging mysteries to read as a young child. I think there's a lot of suspense built up in them as well, and they're just a lot of fun. But yeah, they follow Dink, Josh, and Ruth Rose as they solve mysteries.
There's also the Magic Treehouse series, which is a series that I have talked about a little bit, and one that I have read and loved pretty much all my life. All my life I called them Jack and Annie because those are the two main characters, but the series is Magic Treehouse, and it's just, there's so much about them. It's magic, it's fantasy, it's history, it ties in all these different aspects of science and history and magic and fantasy and writing, and just so much about it that is very engaging, but also is presented in such a way that it just captures your imagination as a kid. And I don't know, I think I could probably go back and reread all of these and still enjoy them as much as I did the first time.
So the next book I have here is actually another part of a book series, the Little House in the Prairie series by Laura Ingalls Wilder. And this is the first one, Little House in the Big Woods. I loved these books to death. As you can see, the binding is tape right now. I was like, I should read it again. I'm like, maybe not this copy. But it's so fun. It follows Laura Ingalls and her family as she grows up. So it starts when she's pretty young. And we see just their life as they grow up, and it's a very endearing story, and it's fun. And I always liked watching other people live what was normal for them, that life, that always really appealed to me. And so watching what was normal in claim staking times of America was really, really fun, and it's a really sweet, as shown in this book, it's a very sweet and endearing family.
Then there's the Wingfeather Saga, which I have done a review for, but this series is just, I was very, very pleasantly surprised with both how well it's written and also how engaging the story is. It's a fun and whimsical world, but there's some depth to it that I don't see all the time, even in books written for adults. And it's just, there's so much about it that it was great for me to read, and I was very happy to find a series that I enjoyed as much as this one. The story follows a family with three kids, Jan, Tink, and Lily. They're the three main characters really, but it also follows their mom and their grandpa for quite a bit of it, and it's the relationship between them and the adventures that they go on as a family really, and the things that they have to deal with in this fantasy world that's full of wonder and dragons and toothy cows and just weird animals and music and stuff that just is so much fun to me and just very different than I usually read.
So the next book series I have here is the Boxcar Children by Gertrude Chandler Warner. This was another book series that I loved to death. The first 19 are written by Gertrude Chandler Warner, and then she died. So after that, the company, to my understanding, the company started writing, so there's hundreds of Boxcar Children books. And some of them are really fun, but I definitely recommend the first 19 in particular. And it follows Henry, Violet, Jesse, and Benny, 4 kids, 4 orphans, and they make their home in book 1 in a boxcar. And it was another one of those situations where you're following along with these people's lives and getting to see how they lived, but it was different and it was exciting because they were living in a boxcar and they didn't have parents, which was really sad, but how they managed that and what they did because of how their life was different than everyone else's. And the mysteries that they solve further on is really fun.
And then the last series that we have on this list is the Chronicles of Narnia by C.S. Lewis. We've talked about this quite a bit, but I don't know, there's so much about this series that's so great. Yeah, the first one follows 4 kids again at different ages, as most 4 kids usually are.
4 siblings, yeah.
4 siblings, but they go on this adventure, they get thrust into this adventure that they aren't expecting, but it takes them away from the cares of their everyday life that they're currently having to deal with. The kids are sent away from their home, and so they have to make this new life at this grand estate that they can't really just be themselves at because there's so many different rules and things like that. And then they end up finding their way into this fantasy world, into Narnia, and so different and so wonderful and so magical.
There's all sorts of really fun creatures in Narnia, like fauns, and there's witches, and it's always the story of, even though each of the stories are different, there's always the story of good conquering evil and overcoming, and family is a really strong theme. So, these are the books we recommended to you guys. The one really fun thing that I was thinking about is that A to Z Mysteries, Magic Treehouse, and the Boxcar Children almost all work as standalones within the series, so you don't have to commit to reading however many books are in the series, 27 in A to Z Mysteries, and however many is in the Boxcar Children. All you need for the Boxcar Children is to read the first one, and then all the other ones pretty comfortable if you didn't want to read them in order or you couldn't get them. Magic Treehouse, they're like, it's always helpful to have read them in order, but if you can't, then that's okay. Like, it manages on its own and you can figure things out, and as you go back and have access to different books, it works. So these are really fun for that reason, is that you're not committing to a giant, intimidating series. It's one book that's really fun. And then Narnia, we always recommend starting with The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe because that's the most engaging and fun. And if you like that, from there you can go on and read the rest of the series. But this book here includes the entire series.
There's 7 books in this one book here,
right.
So they're really not as big as they seem.
And it's just a lot of fun.
The first book is that big, so it's really rather small in comparison to the entire book. But in each of these actually can, in many degrees, stand on their own, especially The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. You could read that one as its own story and never read any more, and you would have the complete story that you need.
That's what's great about all of these books, I think, is that they work as standalones, and then if you like them, you can read more. Because there's an option to read more. There's more to read.
Yes, they're also written in such a way so that it's fun to read. You enjoy reading them. They're easy and they're fun, and they don't make you frustrated with how they're written. You don't have to worry about that kind of stuff because that's not what you're reading them for. You're reading them to have fun, and that's really what all of them are. It's just lots of fun.
Thank you all for watching an Erudite adventure. We hope that you got some recommendations from this, or if you're a young viewer and you wanted to try some new books, or if you're a more matured viewer as well, no, if you're older. These are great books to try in the middle grade area, of course, Narnia, and I would say even Wingfeather, expand that. Yeah. Little House on the Prairie is completely different. They're just great books all around. So, if you're looking for a different type of recommendation, I hope you guys got some from this video.
We post videos every Monday and Thursday. We will see you guys again soon. Stay.